Welcome to Biology and Society series. Let's continue with our genetics playlist. On our previous video, we talked about genetics, the study of how traits are passed on from parents to their children. Today, we are going to be defining these genetic terms: DNA, gene, allele, and chromosomes. Remember, we said that DNA is a very long molecule that resides inside of the cell's nucleus. Yes, but DNA is not only found in the cell's nucleus. DNA can also be found in the mitochondrion, which is called mitochondrial DNA. That's not what we are going to be discussing today. So, having known what a DNA is, this long molecule is DNA. Now, what is a gene? Now, along this DNA are several segments. These several segments are special segments that code for special proteins. So each of these segments is called a gene. So along this DNA, you have segments. Maybe this segment codes for eye color. Maybe this segment codes for hair color. Maybe this segment codes for height. So there are several segments along the DNA. So each of these segments that codes for a special protein that performs a special function is called a gene. So a gene is one segment of the DNA that codes for a particular protein. Now, what's an allele? What's an allele? Now, let's look at these two chromosomes. Remember how humans are diploid, right? So this chromosome comes from the mother and this comes from the father, which means that if this is a gene, this is a segment of this chromosome that codes for, let's say, height. So this copy comes from the mother, this copy comes from the father. This particular segment, which is the gene responsible for height. This is also the gene responsible for height in the mother, while this is for the father. So these two segments code for the same protein, which is the protein that makes or that is responsible for height. So these two genes are the same gene, although they are alternates of each other. For example, this could be the gene that codes for tall height, and then this could be the gene that codes for short height, but both of them code for height. So one of this particular gene is what is called an allele. So allele is one gene in a pair. So we have a pair here. One of these is called an allele. So you can also say that an allele is an alternate version of a particular gene. This is the gene that codes for height, right? So on this chromosome, this is the segment that codes for height, and then one of these genes is called an allele. One of these genes is called an allele. So that's what an allele is: one gene in a pair. Now, what is a chromosome? This is a chromosome. This is a chromosome. Now, how does a chromosome form? Remember, we said that this DNA is very long, so long that it cannot fit inside of this cell. So it has to coil itself and supercoil itself around special proteins called histones in order to fit inside of this cell. So at that particular point where this DNA coils around these histones and then forms this particular shape, like an X shape here we are seeing here, that is what we call the chromosome. This happens before the cell divides, before replication. So the DNA has to coil and condense itself in a structure known as chromosome. So the chromosome is just a bunch of DNA, a bunch of supercoiled DNA that coils itself around special proteins called histones. There is a whole lot of process that happens here, but that cannot be explained in a very short video like this. On subsequent videos, we are going to be discussing all these genetic terms one after the other. For today, thank you so much for watching, and keep following Biology and Society series. Let's forever continue to love, heal, and educate ourselves.